we go. Kris, what's up, man? How are you?
First and foremost, these numbers are fucking bullshit. I didn't think that the Biden admin would go this fucking low, but they went this low. Okay. I know that I sound like stupid, like, oh my God, that's like a conspiracy. No. This has been the case. If you look at August, they had to revise 800,000 jobs in August. Okay. So, how do you miss by that margin? Just think about that. And again, this is the same thing. So, I don't know whether this is conspiracy, but more than likely, it's fucking incompetence. So, whoever they've got over at the BLS right now reporting these numbers, it's really fucking bad. If you look at some of the congressional hearings, they've actually done, like, I think a couple of senators brought this up. Let me see if I can find it and show you guys.
So you don't believe in these numbers at all. You think all these numbers?
No. This thing is going to get revised hard next month, and when it gets revised, everyone's going to be like, "What do you mean? There's not a dude? The average American is hurting. That's why Trump got elected." Okay, if the average American was doing fine because there's tons of jobs everywhere, people would have said, "You know what? Let's keep Biden." But no, the things that the what is it called? It's in the pudding, bro. The numbers honestly do not make sense right now, and I could be wrong, but I've seen this happen in the past, and the crazy revision they had to do to these numbers is going to be something that, like, we're going to look back and be like, holy shit, I can't believe they came up with this.
Yeah, the revision in August was definitely something that made a lot of people not trust these numbers. Also, I do agree with you. Like, if people voted for Trump because the average American is hurting, the idea that we have all these jobs and they're so plentiful and anyone can get a job, it does seem a little bit counterintuitive. And if it's wrong and if it's revised and we skip a couple cuts because we thought the labor market was great and we find out the labor market was crap, then we're down, all that time we probably should have been cutting. That's when we really get into a bad territory, I'd imagine.
Yep. So we'll see what happens, man. But I'm telling you, the last time they did this was a crazy figure. And I mean, we'll see, man. This is where you kind of have to make the bet on your side and figure out, like, okay, do I believe these numbers or do I not? Because if you believe these numbers, then you should not be in TLT or anything that's long duration bonds. But if you think that this is bullshit that's going to get revised down next year when the BLS, the data actually comes out and they actually do a revision and it's going to be much lower, then that means that the 10-year is probably going to crash back down. Very similar to what we saw in August. So if you look at TLT prior to August, look at the sharp move down in September.
Yeah, 100. It was at September 16th all the way down to 89 by November.
No, I'm saying like right in August to that. So look at August all the way up after they did the numbers revision.
Okay, so August TLT was at August 5th. It was 98.
No. So at the bottom, there you go. That's when the revision came out, right? Look at that spike after that.
96 to 100. Yeah.
Okay,
so give me your thoughts on what's going on in the macro then. This 10-year, which is basically at 4.7, how is I know the market's down right now, but how is the market still holding up with this 10-year being this high? And do you think the market's not going to be able to hold up any longer if the 10-year stays at these levels?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you also have Europe saying that inflation is starting to go up a little bit. And so it's a consecutive for the last 3 months, Europe ECB inflation is starting to rise. The thing is, that could be correlated to higher energy prices. Because if you look at energy prices, they've been rising pretty steadily, right? So natural gas especially. So that's one thing. So yeah, if you look at oil, click on oil and just look at the 6 month, you can see the nice spike in that.
Yeah, you're right.
Spike. So do like the 3 month or the 1 year on it, and you can see this rise since December. So you see.
Okay, so then what do you think Trump has to do to get this 10-year to come down?
The first thing is the economic picture that's being painted right now, that everything is great. It has to be corrected, right? People have to come out and actually show numbers that show, like, wait a second, no, the average American is actually hurting right now. The the employment picture is not nearly as rosy as the government is putting out there. And once that is out there, people are going to wake up and say, wait a second, no, like actually these higher rates are actually biting people, and biting businesses, and businesses are actually not as strong as we're hoping, which means that technically the cutting they should have kept cutting,
Right.
So,
right. Do you think Trump kind of pseudo wants to tank the market to then save the market?
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, who wants to inherit the market at all-time highs? That's really bad, right? Because if you're literally inheriting something at all-time highs with valuations, premiums at all-time highs, you're basically getting handed a really bad situation. So imagine right now you're following up the dream team. No matter what you do, you're not going to be the dream team. You're basically following up those kinds of numbers. So I'd say this is where Trump has to basically jostle the markets and blame a lot of stuff on the Biden admin and be like, look, they actually didn't leave us in a position of strength. They left us in a very precarious position where the markets are all rallied up. And there's likely a situation where we're not going to see a correction, but we need to be in a better glide path for the S&P. Because, I mean, if you look at valuations right now, bro, these are back to 2021 level valuations. A lot of it's being led by the Mag 8, which are really strong companies. But the Mag 8's valuation, like long-term valuation, is freaking insane right now. So
are you under the assumption then that the Mag 8 takes a pretty chunky haircut?
I think there's a couple in the Mag 8 that definitely deserve to get smacked down. Like I would say Tesla definitely.
You almost said Palantir. You almost said Palantir. Yeah. You almost said they were Mag 8.
Yeah. Tesla definitely has to come down. Nvidia has to come down. I mean, the valuations are just really high on them. Amazon is fine. They've got a ton of cash flow. Google is fine. Microsoft could use a little bit of calming down. Apple could use some calming down as well. I'm just saying, look, I love these companies, but remember, just because you love a company doesn't mean you buy it at an expensive price, right?
Right.
So,
okay. So how are you then interpreting what the first 100 days is going to look like for Trump? Like, do you think it's deregulation galore, tariffs galore? Like, he's only going to have 2 or 3 things he can really get past and focus on. Do you think the tax cuts extended? What do you think is going to be his main priority?
I mean, this is the part that sucks, because all the stuff that Trump wants to do is inflationary, right? Tariffs are inflationary, right? Deporting a whole bunch of people when the labor market has 8 million openings, quote unquote, it's not exactly the right move you want to make if you're trying to control inflation, right? Trade deficits are super high right now, so you kind of need inflation to go down so you can close the gap. Right now, if you look at the federal government, the deficit is so freaking expensive because all the debt that's rolling over is being financed at much, much higher rates. So right now, you're basically inheriting, you're pretty much inheriting a shitstorm, and you got to figure out a way to navigate this,
Yeah, and I think in the next 100 days, I don't know what he's going to do to begin navigating it, but I would imagine he's going to do something, because he's not going to let the dollar be at 2022 levels or let the 10-year be at almost 5%. I don't think in his first 100 days he's going to let that happen.
Yeah, I think the key here is he needs a weak economy so he can come in as the savior, right? Or he's got to paint the Biden admin as a bunch of idiots, but at the same time he can't, because his barometer for success has been the stock market. But if you inherit something at an all-time high, it's just a really difficult position to be in. You're following up numbers that were like Jordan numbers. Now, whether they're real or not is a different thing. So I don't know. Like, it's just, please keep in mind he was giving a strong economy his last term.
Yeah, I mean, Obama gave him a decent economy, but this is not just a decent economy. He's getting one of the best stock markets we've ever seen. 2 back-to-back.
Well, I mean, if you keep pumping in liquidity, this is what's going to happen. You increase deficit spending, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a market that's on fire.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about technology this year. So I don't know how much of the NVIDIA stuff you got yesterday, but it looks like they think there's multiple verticals they can keep growing into. You think it's a little expensive here. Do you think the market, I mean, it's getting sold off after hitting all-time highs. Do you think the market is more afraid of inflation than they are positive on NVIDIA's growth story?
No, I think Nvidia is a great company. They're going to do really well. And even the valuation on it right now, it's palatable because they are growing really fast. And at the same time, they're buying back a shit ton of shares. So they deserve to be at a high. The problem is you're dragging the entire market in that similar direction, right? So it just looks really, really off right now. What I want to see is these things to come down so that this way we can buy in and get a good price, right? You want companies like, let's say Google right now. Google's trading at a 21 PE on a forward basis, which means it's good for us. We, as investors, get the opportunity to bite this apple, right? That's what we want. We don't want to buy Apple at what is it, a 40 PE with little to no growth. I mean, yeah, they're buying back shares, but there's little to no growth. And then the entire picture on the other side is China. They're slowing down in terms of sales in China. So this is where I'd say, me as an investor, I want the markets to drop. Okay. I honestly don't give a shit what anyone else owns. I want to get a good deal on something at a discounted price, right? Like if you own a company like Apple, I hope you do really well, but I want it to come down so I can buy in too at a reasonable price, right? Is that a fair statement?
I mean, you're young, you want to be compounding for the next 20 years. And I think all of us at this point, it's just the pain of the short term is what you have to deal with.
Yeah, and you want to get discounts, so that's what
it is. So then here's the thing. So far, 2025 has been like 2024, where every dip got bought. I mean, I know it's only been 6 days, but like, do you think that continues? Like today, so this is I'll call this the jolts dip of today. If tomorrow we're back and Tesla's at 410 and Nvidia's at 149 or something, is it just like 2024 again? And is that healthy?
This is where like it gets really tricky, because the whole narrative right now is that AI is still a big thing. And we're starting to see even like companies like Microsoft just came out and said, we're going to spend $80 billion on AI spend. Okay. Yeah. Which is hugely bullish for anyone who thought AI was going to slow down in 2025. Like if that was your base case, that got blown out the water. Google said the same thing. Meta said the same thing. So do I think that AI, like the bubble in AI pops this year? No. And I think AI is a real thing, but the valuations on some of this AI stuff might be a little bit too much. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people, like a lot of speculators have entered the market now. Okay. So you remember 2021 where you saw all these pre-revenue companies like SPACs just running and people were like, oh my God, FOMOing in. So you look at all the FOMO stuff right now. You look at quantum computing. I'm sorry if you love quantum, I think the technology is great, but to invest in a business model before they're making any real money is a little risky, right? So you look at Qubits, you look at Rigetti, you look at these guys, they're not making any money right now. It's not even a proven business model yet. Yet people are paying.
Kelly is short on these names.
Oh yeah, I mean he's right to do it, because first of all, you don't know who the winner is. You don't know who which company's business model is actually going to be monetizable, right? It's not like an industry where you have a proven business model that's taken a bit of a hit and then it's in recovery mode after that whole situation corrects itself. You're basically trying to develop a new thing, and that's what happens. A lot of industries come out and people are like, the promising technologies always come out and be like, people get bid up. So as an example, electric cars. How many electric cars actually survived? Tesla and Rivian. The other ones, like most of them are basically done, right? Then you have 3D printing. Remember, 3D printing was going to be the next big thing. Like people were buying 3D printing companies like there was no tomorrow. Right. Yeah. That was another big thing. Then I remember nanotechnology was going to be a big thing. Gene editing was going to be a big thing. Now everyone's like, oh, quantum computing is going to be a next big thing. So this, like, another one that's going up right now is VTOL. Everyone's like, oh my God, VTOL is where it's at. Do you have a single VTOL company right now that's making any money?
Not really. No,
right. So everyone is buying Archer, buying these companies, thinking that, oh my God, this is the future, And believe it or not, there's some weak ones that have already gotten killed.
Huh? VTOL, quantum, all this stuff my question to you is, why is it getting a bid? Is it just speculation and froth? Because
Yeah, it's speculation. People are just super like positive about it. They're seeing headlines and being like, "Oh my god, I need to throw money at this thing." Like when Archer says, "Look, I have a contract with the Air Force because of this," or Joby says that, people are like, "Oh my god, I need to be in this thing." Well, first of all, what are their profit margins? How many are they actually selling? Is the technology proven yet? Is the business model proven yet? Because if it's not, then what are you going to do? Now, yeah, you could speculate on it. You could definitely speculate on it and, put like a very small position in your portfolio. But I feel like sometimes when speculators get too greedy, bro, they start going full port Archer and then shit drops 80, 90%. People are like, what happened to my portfolio? So.
yeah, it's definitely a counter perspective because obviously a lot of people have done well on those names. And those names are getting held up because more money keeps coming in. Your argument is that if there's any sign of a real correction, those are the first names to get a little bit
Yeah.
of a hit, which
I
is
mean,
kind of Kelly's point
what's
as well.
that? You remember when scooters were a big thing? Like everyone was gonna just buy scooters. I mean, not buy scooters. They're gonna rent scooters, like Bird and Lime and all this other stuff. How many times do these fads come around, and do they actually ever? I would say you need to wait until the Wait, Kris is making me feel about my quantum. No, 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 no. I hope you make a ton of money. Don't feel. I am not trying to be against you. All right. I hope you make a lot of money, Randy. I'm just saying, be on the cautious side, because if you see the bottom falling out, don't be like, oh my god, this is fine. This is going to recover, and it might eventually recover. But this is where if you've made really good gains, profit taking is not like shouldn't be out of the question.
Well, no one ever went broke taking a profit. No one ever went taking a profit. So.
Yeah, especially if you look at 2021. 2021 was the greatest example of how people could get rug pulled, right? Remember when space flight was going to be a big thing with Virgin Galactic, right? So
yeah, and I just want to say before you continue, again, I know I'm still bullish on this year. You're bullish on this year, but it is not bad to have a counter perspective on taking profits and comparisons of years in which hype became too much. Because when that happens and then the bottom falls out and everyone's left upset, it's like sometimes you do want to have these conversations before that happens, even if you're still relatively bullish on markets or technology in general, right?
Yeah. I know a lot of people give me a lot of like hate on it. That's fine, dude. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. It's not, I don't take it personally. My only thing is, remember when you're buying a stock, you're not buying a ticker symbol. You're buying a real business. And if the business does not make money, then it's not something that you want to be in. Now, if you think this is a revolutionary industry and you have speculative money on the side that you just think, you know what, this could be my 100x or 1000x, by all means, buy it. Don't listen to assholes like me. You don't need that, but you should remember this is all about risk management. So keep it at a level where you can afford to lose the entire thing, because most of these companies do end up losing their entire thing. Like look at Cooler, right? Yeah, KULR. What was the stock price right now? It's like $3, right? Go to like a full chart, like all time, right? Look at that massive drawdown. So if you can deal with that, then that's fine.
Yeah, this was another 2021 name, or actually they came in 2018. So
yeah,
and they bought Bitcoin on the balance sheet.
Yeah. When markets are running like this, dude, and markets are at all-time highs, it's just like another one is nuclear. Right now, everyone is high on nuclear, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, a lot of this stuff makes you want to, the way that I would explain this to people is, if you want to make money in the market, if you're trying to do if you go to like a roulette table and you just want to make a bet and make like an extraordinary amount of gain, okay, do that. But don't take your entire bankroll and put it on like 13 and hope that it's going to hit, You want to kind of piece it out a little bit. So I don't know, man. What do you think on all of these new technologies running up lately?
Dude, I don't know. I don't have an opinion that's bullish or bearish. I do think there's a lot of money coming into them that's betting on potential, but I do think there is a lot of potential. Like Archer partnering with Andrew, that's big. Having a 6 billion backlog, 4 billion market cap, that's big. Now, does it justify price to sales in the 10,000 range on some of these names? I don't know, but it's really about risk tolerance. How much do you know about quantum to invest in? Because if you know a ton about it and you think everyone else is wrong, then you invest. If you don't, then
the way that I would frame it is that put money in it, but don't put enough money that you're going to feel it if it goes to zero. Is that a fair assessment to make?
No, I think it's fair. I think it's very fair.
You know,
So let's talk about some individual names. Google down a little bit right here.
I love
Hit
Google,
202.
man. I love Google. Google's making money, and my entire thesis on Google is all this stuff about DOJ breaking them apart and stuff. All that stuff is exaggerated. With Trump in office, Sergey Brin meeting with Trump, and same thing with Sundar meeting Trump. I think all of this stuff goes away next year. I mean, yeah, they'll get smacked a little bit because this way Trump can get his victory, saying, "Look, I smacked Google," but a smack is better than getting cut in half. You know,
So would you like Google at 197, or you think a haircut is better?
it's one of the cheapest of the Mag 7 with probably one of the strongest growth profiles relative to the other companies, you know, and they have a real strong business in cloud that a lot of people are underappreciating. Now they've got a Waymo thing on the side. I mean, Google's a great business. I don't see any disruption in their search business, so not worried about that. So
Tesla right here, 392, guys. Tesla taking a nice little haircut as well, down 4%.
see, Tesla's extended valuation isn't coming from its numbers right now. It's coming from the prospect that like the bot is going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think the bot's going to be a big thing?
Well, I think the bot's gonna be a big thing, but I don't think this valuation is coming from the bot at all. I think it's coming from FSD, because every analyst equity report I've read is like FSD, FSD, FSD. They're barely talking about Optimus. But yes, I think the bot's gonna be a big thing, but I think FSD is why it's at 400.
Because I was talking to a few people and they're telling me FSD is great the first time you use it and stuff, but the amount of interventions are high enough to the point where they don't feel like this is like real value for them. Is that something you can confirm, or people in the chat? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, but again, I think that's anecdotal, because I've had plenty of, like, Rango. I mean, he drove from, I think, California to San Francisco in FSD over the weekend, and like it was amazing. He had like one intervention maybe. So I think the overall industry is catering enough to the point where if Tesla can show some material progress in FSD, which would culminate in the $25,000 car and unsupervised FSD in Texas and California, then the street's going to be all over it. But we got to get there in the next 5 months.
That's a fair assessment. Yeah. Look, I like FSD. I'm not at the point right now where I can trust it fully yet, but but once again, like, I don't own a Tesla. So, you know.
Yeah, we got plenty of people in the chat who say FSD is strong. Okay, so Nubank, talk to me about this one. You like this. Why should anyone be interested in a Brazilian bank?
So they're not just a Brazilian bank anymore. They also have operations in Mexico. They have operations in Colombia, which are growth markets. So if you can pull up, go to Trading Economics, go to the GDPs of Mexico and go to the GDP of Brazil. Both of them have strong growth profiles that are probably going to last into the next 5 to 10 years. So they're taking a great amount of market share in Brazil, and now they're actually developing their products in Brazil. One of the great things I like about them is that they understand that it's not just a banking product, but they also have like other value added services that get commingled into that. And so they're like almost like an ecosystem app, like a super app, right? And they're gaining a lot of traction in those countries. So I think the business model is great. It's profitable, making great money. The reason why it's down is nothing related to its actual business. It's just related to the strong dollar. And the strong dollar is something that Trump is likely to take a whack at and bring it back down. So if this dollar gets, chopped down, Brazilian real rallies up, euro rallies up, boom, now all of a sudden you're going to get people, the currency headwinds are going to end up being currency tailwinds for these guys.
So do those headwinds get us to like a $7 stock if it gets really bad, or do you think this is kind of where it bottoms out?
No, I don't think so, man. I don't think the currency, because it already took the dip from 15 something, it was massively overdone. Massively.
Yeah, I think it was a 16 at one point.
Yeah. But then again, remember when the report actually comes out, like the what is that thing called? The earnings report, that's where you'll actually see this. And the thing that Dan Niles said, I mean, if you saw it yesterday, was absolutely correct, that a lot of the S&P 500, like the mega caps, they have businesses outside of the United States where 60 to 70% of the revenue is coming from outside the US. So now if you have to do a mark-to-market accounting of like the dollar, you're going to see those FX headwinds end up getting calculated into their EPS estimates, And so now your earnings are going to look weaker and your earnings are likely to miss because you have to adjust for a strong dollar versus a weak currency that you're dealing with. So imagine right now you have contracted services in Brazil, right? And basically they're contracted in Brazilian reals. All of a sudden now you got paid in Brazilian reals, but you report in dollars. So now you're taking in less revenue technically in US dollar terms. Right. So that's something to keep in mind.
All right. So last question for you here. And by the way, I'll put Chris's Twitter in the chat so you guys can follow him there. What do you think of Zucks giving Dana a seat on the board?
I like it. I mean, culturally, this is one of those things that we really needed, man. Like it got to the point where certain topics, if you spoke about them or said on YouTube, literally you get demonetized. You remember that? It was like, you can't talk about COVID. Like, even if it's legitimate information, you can't talk about COVID because you'd get demonetized. I mean, that's like censorship on another level. Now, do you want the government to have that kind of power? You know, like this UK thing is also another big thing. Like all the people that are finally like talking about these, you know, these rape gangs in the UK, you know, imagine right now people trying to bring this up and you're getting silenced. Now, I'm not going to say free your Tommy Robbins and all that nonsense, because I don't know what his crime was that he got put in jail for, because I think there was actually more to that story than a lot of people are leading on. But the point is, there's been a concerted effort to not really talk about this because it might hurt cultural relations and all this other stuff. So I don't like that. Okay. I think if, regardless of your minority status, you are not protected. I don't give a shit if you're a minority or not. Like, if you commit the crime and it's predominantly your minority that's doing it, people should be openly criticizing that fucking minority, right?
Yeah.
If you saw a bunch of people like me going out there and committing fucking crimes, you should say, look, this is a problem with that specific community. We need to find out what it is, you know?
Yeah, I think in general, the past past decade has been, let's not say things on Facebook because we're afraid of censorship. And Zucks basically said, no, we're going to change that entire model today. Now, granted, I think he's probably doing it to bow down to Trump because he has to. But nonetheless, for whatever reason he's doing it, he is still doing it. All right, there we go. Thank you, Kris. Actually, last question for you. Non-farm payrolls on Friday. You think that's good? You think that's bad? You think that is fake?
I don't know, dude. I'm going to wait until probably, you know, February tends to have a really bad, like among the S&P 500, February is not a good month to be for total returns, right? Have you seen that like historically?
Yep.
So I don't know, man. Maybe this is where we get a situation where things get, I don't know, somewhat of a correction. So maybe we get a nice 5-10% dip on the markets and gives us an opportunity to buy things up, you know. By the way, I don't know if I should bring this up, but there's
is this something political? Because I would just like
it's a call. You know what? I'll keep it to myself. But I'll tell you right now, I saw something
political. Remember on the market close 2 weeks ago?
I saw some. I've seen some things in Afghanistan that you don't want to. It's sickening. All right, some of the stuff. And the thing is, you want to know the most fucked up part? They were our allies that were doing shit like literally like boy rape. It's been a fucking like proven thing.
Afghanistan. I've seen this story. Yeah, I've seen this story. Yeah.
Dude, that was bad. And what's really sickening is that leadership and command actually said, no, we don't want to just like in Afghanistan said, no, we don't want to make this a big thing because we don't want to alienate our allies. You want to know one of the things that the Taliban was against? Boy rape. It's called bachabazi. It's a fucking thing, bro. It's a sickening practice. And the Taliban actually was against it. Can you believe that? But our allies were for it. So what did we do? We covered it up. We couldn't talk about it.
Well, here's the thing. When Trump gets in office, I think we're going to see in the first 100 days what actually goes down, you know, if things are able to actually change in any meaningful way. But I agree with you. It's absolutely sickening and got a lot of this shit happening all across the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just this isn't, I feel bad about saying this because, bro, I have friends that are, you know, part of that culture. Like, you know, they're, and I don't want to say like that entire culture is like that, but certain things are accepted in outside cultures, including mine, that I think are retarded. Like, I think Indian people, we need to stand up and get these really, really like religious people out of the community also, because we have a bunch of crazy people in our religion too. You know, like you went to India, you saw that shit. You know.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is like, can we speak about this openly? And if we can, you know, we have an opportunity to change. If we can't, then
yeah. And I just hope people in the chat just remember this. If I censor, if you create a situation where I have to censor myself, or Amit has to censor himself, that means that you're not getting truthful information, right?
Yeah.
So and that extends not only into culture but also business, where you can't openly talk about why you think a company is bearish, because the entire ecosystem is, anyone who's bearish, I'm going to go after that guy. You know, and I feel like that sometimes that happens with short sellers, who are absolutely right in calling out certain companies for certain practices, but now they've been shamed into not being able to express that position and saying, look, this company is actively engaging in fraudulent behavior. Right. So, you know, free speech is, I think, one of the most paramount things, whether it comes to culture, politics, or investing. I think that's the way we have to go. You know.
All right, Kris. Thank you, sir.
Later.
We'll get you on later. Chris's Twitter in the chat. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Have a good one. Take care.
See ya.